Hello friends, welcome to Dungeons & Dragonfly, where I adapt various characters for use in D&D. I'm Dragonfly9078, and today I'm building Melinoë from Hades 2. So what do we want from this build? Well, we're a witch, so we need all that entails. Curses, familiars, rituals and ceremonies, even our coven, the Silver Sisters. We also need to be able to customize our build night after night, changing up our abilities from day to day to see what works and what doesn't. That said, we do have a few core abilities that stay with us. Most notably our dash, that transports us intangibly through space, and our cast, an area of effect that pins enemies in place. Looking over at ability scores, I'll be using the standard point array. If you want to roll for stats, that's fine, just make sure your wisdom and charisma are high enough to multiclass. Starting off by dumping strength. Zagreus is the fighter, we're more focused on magic. Dexterity's 14. Mel doesn't wear armor, so we'll need to be a little bit dodgy. We do have less default HP than Zagreus did, so we'll put our 12 in Constitution, and Intelligence is only 10. We don't really need it for much, and we haven't really learned much outside what we need for our task. Then we'll put our 15 in Wisdom. Mel had to grow up fast, and she does use Divine Magic, and we'll finish off with our 13 in Charisma to help us beseech our Olympian family for their aid. As the daughter of a god, Aasimar is the race that fits us best, giving us 60 feet of dark vision, the light cantrip, and resistance to both radiant and necrotic damage. We've also got healing hands. Once per day, we can touch a creature as an action, roll d4 equal to our proficiency bonus, and heal them for the total. Once we hit 3rd level, we get to transform with Celestial Revelation. Once per day, we can use our bonus action to transform for a minute, choosing between 3 options. Heavenly Wings gives us a boost from Hermes, giving us a fly speed equal to our walking speed. Inner Radiance channels Apollo to deal radiant damage equal to our proficiency to creatures within 10 feet of us at the end of each turn, and Necrotic Shroud uses our own chthonic heritage to frighten any creatures within 10 feet of us who fail a charisma save. Whichever option we pick, we also deal extra damage equal to our proficiency bonus once per turn when we deal damage with an attack or spell. Heavenly Wings and Inner Radiance each add radiant damage. Necrotic Shroud, of course, adds necrotic. Due to our lifelong training, we'll use the Acolyte background. Acolytes can boost any of the mental stats at character creation, so we'll take +1 Wisdom and +2 Charisma to bump Wisdom to 16 and Charisma to 15. We get proficiency in Insight and Religion, as well as with Calligrapher supplies, which aren't super useful to us, so we'll switch those out for Mason's tools, so we can use a pick to mine up reagents like silver and marble. For our Origin feat, we get Magic Initiate, picking spells from the Cleric list. Our Father is the God of the Dead, so we'll take Spare the Dying and Toll the Dead for our cantrips. Spare the Dying stabilizes dying creatures, and Toll the Dead deals necrotic damage on a failed Wisdom save, and has bigger damage dice if the target isn't at full health. Our first level spell will be Ceremony, which we can cast as a ritual to perform one of several rites, like Blessing Water, pacifying spirits with funeral rites, blessing a creature who wishes to atone for their actions, that kind of thing. Following the example of Sister Artemis, we'll start off as a Druid. We get proficiency with animal handling and survival, as well as with herbalism kits to collect plant-based reagents. We also learn Druidic, which in addition to being a super secret language just for us, means we always have Speak with Animals prepared. For our 2 cantrips, we'll grab Shillelagh to let our Witch's Staff Discura use our Wisdom instead of our Strength, and Starry Wisp to fire off a Radiant Moonshot with our special. We also get to pick a Primal Order, so as a Magician, we can add our Wisdom to our Nature and Arcana checks, and we get another cantrip, like Druidcraft, which just lets us do minor sensory and survival stuff like lighting fires and predicting the weather. As for leveled spells, Druids prepare from their entire list and can switch out all their prepared spells on a long rest. There's a few good rituals we can take: Purify Food and Drink, Detect Poison and Disease, Detect Magic, and Longstrider to boost our sprint speed, but the one we're most interested in is Entangle for our cast. A 20-foot square area sprouts vines or roots or grasping ghostly hands to restrain anybody who fails a strength save. If they're strong enough to escape, the area still counts as difficult terrain to slow them down. 2nd level Druids get Wild Shape, but Mel doesn't transform into animals, or not willingly at least, so we'll be using our Wild Shape for other things, like Wild Companion, which burns a use of our Wild Shape to cast Find Familiar, so we can go adventuring with Phrynos or Tula or Gali by our side. At 3rd level, we'll join the Circle of the Land. Land Druids get to pick a type of land to be associated with every day, and each type comes with a list of spells that we get to have prepared. If we pick Arid Land, we mostly get Hestia boons: Firebolt, Burning Hands, Blur, Fireball, and Blight. Well, Blight isn't Hestia, but the rest are. Polar is naturally more aligned with Demeter, giving us Ray of Frost, Fog Cloud, Hold Person, Sleet Storm, and Ice Storm. Temperate gets our Lord Uncle Zeus with Shocking Grasp and Lightning Bolt, along with a few others like Sleep and Freedom of Movement. Notably, this is also the first place we get access to our dash with Misty Step. Finally, Tropical Land gives us a mix of friends and family. Ray of Sickness uses Medea's poison, Web calls up Arachne, Stinking Cloud is Dionysus's Festive Fog, and Polymorph is Selene's Twilight Curse. Land Druids also get another way to use their Wild Shape. As an action, we can burn a use to hit a 10-foot radius sphere with our Grandmother's Power, dealing 2d6 necrotic damage to creatures of our choice who fail a con save, then healing a creature of our choice by 2d6 HP. For second level spells, we can pick up the Lunar Ray Hex with Moonbeam, a sustained beam of moonlight that deals radiant damage and reveals shapeshifters. Demeter's Frigid Rush is Warding Wind, which conjures a cyclone around us that slows down enemies and gives disadvantage to ranged attacks passing through. Then we can get Hestia's Scorch with Heat Metal. We've also got one of our best armor options in Bark Skin, and Locate Animals and Plants is a ritual that lets Selene bring specific reagents in the area to our attention. At 4th level, we'll take an ASI to boost our Wisdom to 18, and we get one more cantrip. Produce Flame is my pick, giving us access to Ignium, the Umbral Flames, so we can throw a steady stream of flames at enemies turn after turn. Wild Resurgence at 5th level lets us trade spell slots for Wild Shape uses, and once per day we can trade a Wild Shape use for a 1st level spell. Not the most useful, but it does give us a little bit more flexibility. As for 3rd level spells, our uncles are really coming out to play with Call Lightning and Tidal Wave. Call Lightning conjures a cloud above us that sends a bolt down every turn with our action, and Tidal Wave summons a huge wave to crash down on an area, dealing bludgeoning damage and knocking creatures prone if they fail a dexterity save. Dispel Magic can undo other people's spells and could end up being the key to ending Kronos' immortality. And Plant Growth can either make a 100-foot radius sphere become overgrown and especially difficult to move through, or it can be an 8-hour ritual that enriches the land, doubling the yield of any crops within half a mile of the place it was cast. 6th level land druids have Natural Recovery, letting us cast the 1st level spell from our chosen land type once per day without using a spell slot. Once per day, we can also regain expended spell slots on a short rest, restoring a total number of spell slot levels equal to half of our druid level. Our last druid level for the moment brings us Elemental Fury. We add our wisdom modifier to the damage of our druid cantrips, and once each turn when we hit with a weapon attack, we can deal an extra 1d8 cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage as our relatives lend their power to our strikes. We also get access to 4th level spells like Divination, to consult Moros and the Fated List of Minor Prophecies for our next move. Pivoting for a bit, we'll learn from Headmistress Hecate and take a few levels of Warlock. For our first Eldritch Invocation, not to be confused with our Witchy invocations, we'll take the Pact of the Blade. We can use our bonus action to summon a melee weapon or bond with an existing magic weapon. Now, Melinoë does bond with existing magic weapons in the game, but putting them into your game is up to your DM, so we'll just make our own. Most notably, we can create things like a Great Axe for Zorafet, a Staff for Discura, or a Dagger or Sickle for Lim or Oros. We become proficient with whatever we summon, we can use our Charisma for our attacks rather than our Strength or Dex, and we can choose to deal Radiant, Necrotic, or Psychic damage rather than Bludgeoning, Piercing, or Slashing. For Warlock spells, we'll take Green Flame Blade to add Hestia's Fire to our attack, and Booming Blade curses the target, so if they move before our next turn, they take a burst of thunder damage. Worth noting, both of those do use a weapon attack as part of the spell, so we can add the extra damage from the Druid's Elemental Fury. Our 1st level spells here are Armor of Agathis, which armors us up with ice and temporary HP. Then whenever a creature hits us with a melee attack, they take cold damage. And with Hex, we can curse a creature, giving them disadvantage on checks using the ability score of our choice, and making our attacks deal an additional 1d6 necrotic damage. Then we'll pick up Unseen Servant to enlist the Shades of the Crossroads to help keep the place clean, and we get Magical Cunning. Once per day, we can spend a minute to get back half of our Warlock spell slots. We only get a total of 2 slots per rest, so this can't get back more than 1, but it's a free spell slot that only takes us a minute to get back, so whatever. Then we can pick up 2 more invocations. First, Lessons of the First Ones gives us an extra origin feat. We'll take Skilled to have Hecate teach us about Arcana, Athletics, and Nature. Then Repelling Blast adds one of Poseidon's knockback splashes to a specific cantrip we have. My pick is Booming Blade, so we can knock them back 10 feet, and if they move to close the distance, our curse triggers to hit them again with thunder. At 3rd level, we pick up Patron, and Hecate aligns very well with the Archfey. Archfey Warlocks are very good at one thing in particular, Misty Step. With Steps of the Fey, we can cast Misty Step without a spell slot a number of times per day equal to our Charisma modifier. Whenever we use Misty Step, we can also either give a creature within 10 feet of us 1d10 temporary HP, or taunt creatures around where we left, giving them disadvantage on attacks against creatures other than us if they fail a Wisdom save. One fun thing to do is hit a creature with Booming Blade and then Misty Step away and taunt them so that they have disadvantage to attack creatures other than us, but they have to move to hit us so they take the thunder damage. Our 2nd level spell here is Ray of Enfeeblement, which weakens an enemy with Aphrodite's power. They make a con save. If they pass, they have disadvantage on their next attack. If they fail, they have disadvantage on all strength rolls and subtract a d8 from their damage. Then we'll pick up Shadow Blade so we can dual wield when we summon one of the sister blades with our pact weapon. We create a light finesse weapon that deals psychic damage and gets advantage on attacks against targets who aren't in bright light. And we'll grab the Weapon Master feat, which bumps our dexterity to 15 and gives us the weapon mastery of one type of weapon. We have to have proficiency with that weapon, and we can change the type when we long rest. This pairs very nicely with our Pact of the Blade, since we get proficiency with whatever kind of weapon we summon. That means Zorfet gets Cleave, Limon Oros get Nick, Skira gets Topple, etc., etc. And we can add Apollo's Light to boost our weapon's damage with True Strike, converting the weapon's normal damage to Radiant and adding extra damage dice on top. That's pretty much all we want out of Warlock, so we'll pivot again to Sorcerer, giving us innate sorcery. Twice per day we can call upon our magic for a minute, boosting the save DC of our sorcerer spells by 1, and giving us advantage on sorcerer attack spells. We get 4 sorcerer cantrips. First up is Blade Ward, which gives us a dodge chance by reducing attack rolls against us by 1d4. Then we can grab Prestidigitation for some quality of life improvements, and Message to, well, send a message. There's also Sorceress Burst, a straightforward shot that deals our choice of damage types, and adds more damage dice if we roll max damage on any of the damage dice. Mage Armor is going to be our go-to armor option, making our AC 13 plus our dexterity. It is lower than Barkskin's 17 minimum, but it also lasts 7 hours longer. Then Magic Missile shoots Artemis's support fire arrows, a handful of darts that don't deal a ton of damage individually, but also don't ever miss. Second level brings us the Black Coat's Shield to block attacks, as well as Featherfall so we can survive being launched into the sky on Mount Olympus. Our Font of Magic gives us a pool of sorcery points equal to our level that refreshes on long rests. We can trade sorcery points for spell slots and vice versa, or we can use the sorcery points to modify our spells with meta magic. Extended Spell lets us burn a point to double the duration of a spell and give us advantage on concentration checks to maintain it, and Seeking Spell lets us use a point to re-roll a spell attack and use the new result. For our final subclass, we'll honor Sister Selene with Lunar Sorcery. We learn yet another cantrip, in this case Sacred Flame, and we can either target one creature as usual with it, or target 2 creatures within 5 feet of each other when we cast it. The bigger draw is Lunar Embodiment. Much like our Circle of the Land, whenever we finish a long rest, we pick a moon phase to draw power from. Whichever phase we pick, we get a list of spells automatically prepared and can cast the first level spell from that list without a spell slot once per day. The full moon gives us Shield, Lesser Restoration, Dispel Magic, and Death Ward. The crescent moon gives us Color Spray, Alter Self, Phantom Steed, and Hallucinatory Terrain. And the new moon gives us Ray of Sickness, Blindness, Deafness, Vampiric Touch, and Confusion. There's also second level spells at this level, like Knock to unseal doors that are locked, and our father's signature trick, Invisibility. Our next ASI will bump our charisma up to 17, and we get even more spells. Are you as sick of spells yet as I am? First up is our final cantrip, Mending, a short ritual that can fix objects. Then we'll take Crown of Madness so Apollo and Hera can charm an enemy and get them to attack their allies. 5th level lets us get half our sorcery points back on a short rest once per day, then gives us 3rd level spells. Slow is the Phase Shift Hex, slowing down 6 creatures at a 40-foot cube if they fail a wisdom save, making them much more vulnerable and hindering their attacks and spellcasting. Then Ashardalon's Stride is Hestia's Rush Boon, boosting our speed by 20 feet and burning enemies we run by. Lunar Sorcerers get Waxing and Waning at 6th level. As a bonus action, we can spend a sorcery point to change what phase we're currently on. More importantly, each of our phases is now associated with 2 schools of magic. Full Moon is Abjuration and Divination, Crescent Moon is Illusion and Transmutation, and New Moon is Enchantment and Necromancy. Whichever phase we're in, if we use a meta magic on a spell from one of the matching schools, we can reduce the point cost of that meta magic by 1, a number of times per day equal to our proficiency bonus. Unfortunately, our spell at this level doesn't fit any of them. Thunderstep is a conjuration spell that's similar to the Wolf Howl Hex. We teleport up to 90 feet, and creatures within 10 feet of the space we left have to make a con save or take thunder damage. 7th level improves our innate sorcery with Sorcery Incarnate. If we don't have any uses of innate sorcery left, we can burn 2 sorcery points to activate it, and while innate sorcery is active, we can use 2 meta magics on any given spell. As for 4th level spells, I like Storm Sphere, for Zeus's take on our cast. We create a 20-foot radius sphere that counts as difficult terrain and bludgeons creatures in it if they fail a strength save. Then every turn, we can use a bonus action to shoot a lightning bolt at a creature nearby. Our last 2 levels are the 8th level of Sorcerer and the 8th level of Druid, so we can get 2 boons, not to be confused with our Olympian boons. Not unlike in Hades, there were 3 boons that fit especially well, so let's pretend we had the Concave Stone in hand and take 2 of them. Both increase one of our ability scores by 1, so we'll round off Dexterity to 16 and Charisma to 18. First up, the Boon of Recovery. This is our good Death Defiance. Once per day, if we would go to 0 HP, we go to 1 instead and heal up to half our max health. We also get Moon Water to go along with it, a pool of 10 D10s that refills on a long rest. As a bonus action, we can spend dice from the pool and roll them, then heal for the total. Then our Capstone is the Boon of the Night Spirit, so we can truly pledge ourselves to the unseen. Whenever we're in dim light or darkness, we can use a bonus action to turn invisible until we take an action, bonus action, or reaction. Notably, there's no time limit, no limit to the number of uses, and we aren't even revealed if we step into bright light. Plus, we get the Dark Side Hex. Whenever we're in dim light or darkness, we get resistance to all damage types except for Psychic and Radiant. Now, of course, as an Aasimar, we already resist Radiant, so we get resistance to everything except Psychic. Now that the build is complete, let's take a look and see what we have done. Well, to start, we've got 44 spells prepared every day, along with 15 cantrips, and 20 of those prepared spells can be swapped around between our Circle of Land, Lunar Sorcery, and Druids prepping from their whole list. Our versatility is off the charts, and throw in that we can have a different weapon and corresponding weapon mastery from day to day, and you end up with a character who can play entirely different each time you long rest. Adding to our versatility even further is our resource management. We can trade sorcery points to spell slots to wild shapes, or the other way around, along with reducing the sorcery point cost of our meta magics. We get 4 free Misty Steps per day, along with free casts of our first level land and lunar spells, plus all of our rituals. And we recover spell slots, wild shapes, and sorcery points on short rests, meaning it'll take a lot for us to be out of gas. We also do have 16 caster levels, so even though we don't have any spells above 4th level, we do have up to 8th level spell slots, so we can upcast pretty high without worrying about taking a slot we'd otherwise need to save for a higher level spell. As for downsides, switching between all those spells gives us a great deal of versatility, but it's also a lot of work in bookkeeping. We certainly can play differently every day, but odds are we'll just fall into what we're comfortable with and let that versatility go by the wayside. There's also a couple of things I would have really liked for the build that just didn't end up working out. Word of Recall is basically Mel's Return to Shadow spell, teleporting us to a pre-designated sanctuary, but it's a high-level cleric spell. We would have needed 11 levels of cleric for it. Similarly, Mel is a goddess of nightmares and has been known to enter dreams on occasion, but we couldn't quite get the Dream spell, which would have needed another 5 or so Warlock levels. It is on the Warlock list, so we can cast it from a scroll, but it would have been nice to just have it.
You know me, Headmistress. I'll do both.
Thank you for watching, friends. I hope you enjoyed the build. Next time is slated to be our anniversary video, so hopefully I can get that out to you guys quickly. If you have any feedback or suggestions for characters you'd like to see me build, please leave them in the comments below and they could show up in a future poll. Leave a like or subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks again for watching. I will see y'all later.